I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. Someone shared a very interesting post she made about performing as Grizabella during the City Springs Theater Company production of Cats in 2023, and I cannot wait to dig deeper into this story. So welcome, Jalise Wilson. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I will get into that post because it's such a unique part that I've not had anybody talk about. But I don't want to spoil that kind of like mini surprise. But let's start. I always start at the beginning. Cats history. So you did it in 2023. You're Grizabella. Before that, how much did you know about Cats?
Honestly, zero.
Zero. Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. I knew it was a musical, obviously. I studied musical theater at the University of Michigan. So my knowledge of musicals were pretty intense, but no connection to the musical, did not grow up watching it, listening to it, nothing.
Not the 1998 movie. You probably knew Memory though, right? Like you at least have the basic knowledge.
The basic knowledge of Cats. I would not say that that was a song on repeat in my household. I'm originally from New Orleans. Jazz, blues is kind of how I grew up until Hurricane Katrina brought me to Atlanta. And then that's actually when I became exposed to musical theater. So I had a very short introduction into musical theater before I pursued it in college.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So not much knowledge. You go to Michigan to study and get your degree.
Yeah.
Obviously, Michigan's not doing Cats, I don't think.
No, it was definitely not doing Cats. Not when I was
okay.
there. It was it's still a very classical musical theater program first, some of the more modern musicals second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very well-known program.
Yeah.
Like, because recently even, there's been a lot of incredible people that come out of that program. So it's super well-known and sought after as a program.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get them to do Cats. I need to get them to kind of do a production.
Maybe.
Okay, so you then fast forward to 2023, and this comes up, and you're going to audition for it. Is this one that you're just like, am I going to do this? Or is it like, is there some excitement to audition for it?
Okay, so originally I was not going to audition for it. At that time, I was working as the artistic casting associate at City Springs. So I was a part of the whole process from audition submissions to the in-person auditions, seeing just a ton of talent come in the door. So I actually had a unique lens viewing this show. I was seeing it firsthand from behind the scenes. And we had a lot of lovely women, talented women come in to sing for Grizabella. And it's just, Bayer was like, let's just keep looking. And then she just looked to me and was like, Jalise, can I hear you sing that? I mean, she knows that I'm a singer. She knows my background. I worked with her on a chorus line. That was the first show I worked with her as a casting associate with her. She was like, can I just hear you sing that? Because the arc of Memory is at such a peak in a lot of people's voices that sometimes you have storytelling throughout the song of Memory. And then when you get to that climax of the song, so many people focus on their vocals, and then the storytelling sometimes get lost just through that anxiety of like hitting that note the way they want to hit it. But for me, Memory sits in such a like sweet spot in my voice that when I got to the climax, it just was able to like soar. So it was really just an impromptu singing around the keyboard after we finished auditions that day. And she was like, I just want to hear you sing it. And then I think maybe that night or the next morning, they were like, so what do you think about exploring being a part of this musical? And I was like, well, one, I would be freaking honored. One, to do a musical with Bayer as a director. I just think that's a dream come true. Two, I never would have thought that I would have been in this show. I always thought that Grizabella was a character who was a little bit older. And then I don't know, further into the podcast, I guess we could talk about, Jacob Brent and his description of Grizabella, but she's not older. So yes, I was kind of just thrown into the musical, but I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a cool story, though. But just you're working on it already. You're already doing stuff. And then it's just like, hey, by the way, I know you got this song in you. Will you quickly just do it?
Yeah.
Does that make it easier or harder that you kind of were almost thrown off guard with the like, just come sing this versus the prep of auditioning and being ready to go in?
I think for me in that moment, I felt like it was harder because I'm like, okay, they just want to hear this voice. I'm like, will I be able to hit it? Will I be able to sound pretty in this moment? Will this be like nope, she didn't do it, let's keep looking? Or will this be like, oh, okay, we can work with this. Like, let's, so it was a moment of anxiety because it's also me singing for Byork and wanting to have this opportunity. You almost don't know you want an opportunity until it's presented to you. And you're like, okay, yeah, now I kind of do want this opportunity. Where is this going to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting too. I mean, it's just like, what I love about this show is that there's so many unique kind of angles and kind of the fun parts. And then it's being done regionally a lot right now.
Yeah.
And so everyone's getting the opportunity to explore it in a different way and slight tweaks. And I love that. And so many people get to put their hands on it, which is such a cool part of a thing that's been so legendary. But you mentioned one of the legends came to your rehearsal. So you had Jacob Brent come.
Yep.
I timing-wise, I'm trying to remember if this was either right before or right after I actually talked with him and had our episode, because I had him on around the same time. And I remember a lot of it was centered around that, which is he was going to a lot of different places of like, he was brought in all the time to be like, okay, come into the rehearsal and tell us the lore and tell us the story.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you? I mean, obviously you weren't the 1998 movie super fan that like everyone knows him from, but he's also one of the most knowledgeable people on Cats to come in and sit around a circle and tell you the story.
Yeah. I think that moment for me was very enlightening. I think just Cats has two sides of it. You have super fans and you have super not fans. And I don't find a lot of people that's in between with it. But for me, storytelling is so huge. And I think that there is storytelling in everything that we do, in everything that we say, in every song that we sing. And I think Jacob Brent was able to highlight that for me because I think you find cats, they're just a bunch of cats on stage singing. And I'm like, no, it's not it. And he connected the dots and he made every movement make sense on stage. He made every eye that you caught on stage have a story behind it, because that's how you get to the depth of the musical without people thinking it's just a whole bunch of cats on stage just singing random songs. Because I don't think that that's what it is. And I think Jacob Brent did such a good job at connecting those stories for people when he came in that it just elevated our stories, because Byork is already such a big storyteller. We did a lot of method acting in the beginning. They brought in kittens and cats for us to play with, which I am not a cats person in real life. My only experience with a cat was when I was 5 years old. I had a piano teacher who had about 17 of them that would just sit on the piano while I was playing. And I'm like, but no, working with him and talking with him and getting stories from his lens really helped. He actually assured in me that Grizabella was never meant to be an old cat. People are like, oh, Jalise, you're not old enough to play Grizabella. He's like, oh, she's not old. She's just seasoned. She has lived life before she had time to live life, if that makes sense. She did all the things too soon in her life. So she looked worn down, but she's not an old woman. And he wanted to make that very clear to the cast, and he wanted to make that very clear to me. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of things you said I think are so true and interesting about this. One is that there is such a story in Cats that is really hard to pick up if you just see it once.
Yeah.
And that was where, for me, this show has really amplified that, because the first time I saw it, I like stories, I like sitcoms, I like the idea of like a neat and tidy plot bringing me together, and the show doesn't give it to you at all. But when you go back multiple times, or you hear people talk about it, or you see different things happening on stage that you might not notice because your eye is fixated to one cat today, that maybe something is happening on the other side of the stage tomorrow, there's so much story that it's just not, it's like you said, there's the super fans, and those are the people that know and get the story, and then there's the super not fans who probably saw it once, or saw the 2019 movie, or saw some variation where they just didn't dig into the story. theater's also subjective. Everyone likes certain things and don't like certain things. So no shame to the super not fans.
Yeah.
But the other part that you said is the Grizabella arc is so interesting because it was very much it felt like it was supposed to be portrayed older. Mm-hmm. And I think it was Jacob and a couple other people have always said, especially as you get national tours where you're not going to get an older person, you're going to get probably somebody in their 20s doing it or young 30s, is that it's not age for Grizabella, it's the experience. Mm-hmm. And that experience is when she leaves the tribe, she comes back with a lot of experience, maybe forced upon her at a young age.
Yeah.
What did Jacob or in general in the process tell you though? Do they answer the question for you of where she went before she comes back?
I think it's just insinuated that she went off, with the villain cat, McCavity, and, lived life, whether that's a streetwalker cat.
Okay. Undefined.
Yeah, undefined, but something along the red light district, that's why she wears her heels and she has those red painted nails. And yes, she's the glamour cat, but she also kind of took that glamour to nightlife, street life.
Yeah.
It's kind of what's insinuated of like what that journey may have been for her. And, with trying not to get too specific, to let each actor and let each Grizabella, I'm assuming, play it, develop that story for themselves, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was your version?
For me, I absolutely agree with that. Like someone who left the tribe because she felt like she was the star and could go off and do more and do better, and getting caught up with the wrong crowd, the wrong guy. I did buy into that version, the wrong guy. And having to return. Now, I did tie in my pregnancy with that. Like, I couldn't ignore. Can I drop that now?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't ignore the fact for me that I was playing Grizabella while also pregnant, and so for me, I had to allow that piece of me to layer into my version of Grizabella. And for me, it's like, I went off and got impregnated, and then I needed to come back home because there was no one that was going to take care of me and my cat, my baby, and take care of my baby where I was at. I didn't belong there anymore.
Yeah. And so this is what I teased in the intro. Your post talked about performing as Grizabella while pregnant. Mm-hmm. But I think the part that I'm like most interested in is reading that post is you talked a lot about how the lyrics of Memory like kind of were super impactful at that time in your life. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I just felt like Memory, she was playing with her past, her future, her past, her future. Memory goes back and forth. Both the first version, the reprise, it just continues to filter between both worlds that she had. And so for me, like daylight, I must wait for the sunrise. I just felt like she was waiting for her new season in life. And whether that meant the tribe was going to accept her, she just needed to continue to walk a new journey, not for herself, but for what was brewing. And that's what was keeping me going as Grizabella. That's what brought, I think Grizabella lyrics can sometimes just sit in such a gloomy place all the time, But and sometimes it's like, oh, well, she really is longing for this afterlife. She's longing for this afterlife. But for me, what gave the story a bit more depth and what gave the story a bit more light is that I was not longing for an afterlife for me. It was a greater purpose. It was to make sure that my baby is okay. It's to make sure that my baby feels loved, that my baby feels touched. And so like, touch me, it's so easy to leave me. That, like, touch me. It's so easy to leave me, but if you touch me, you're going to feel what's happening inside of me because I feel it. I can't even ignore it anymore. Mm-hmm. And so it was those moments that I'm like, okay, this has a deeper meaning for me, and I had to lock in on that.
Yeah. So much of the story, though, is about Grizabella being reborn into a new life and basically ending this life. Mm-hmm. And as pregnant, like being pregnant, like you're at a moment where you're going to have this like such a happy moment in your life, like this life-changing moment. You don't want to leave though, right? Like, is there like how do you think about that? Like,
so for me as an actor playing Grizabella, I had to believe that she needed to leave.
okay,
I had to buy into that to carry the story that I was carrying.
yeah,
And I think for me, how I justified that is like one life has to end for another life to begin, whether that's theoretically, whether that's physically, however that feels for whoever is receiving it. But I just felt like one life has to end for one to be born. And I have to shed this skin so that there can be space for what's next to come.
okay,
Mhm,
okay,
mhm.
interesting. We'll get into that at the end. 'Cause I
Okay.
want to talk depending on who you vote for.
Okay.
By thinking a little bit more further into the relationships that you played,
Yeah.
there's a lot of kind of unknowns with Grizabella. There's I think it's fairly well believed that she left to go work with McCavity and some,
Yeah.
he's the reason she left. There are some productions recently that have said that she already has a daughter in the tribe and that's part of she's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other theories that maybe like she leaves with the Rum Tum Tugger, because I think in some productions he's also not on stage in the opening number for part of it with her. What relationships did you play, and did that change at all since you were thinking about bringing a new life into the world?
Okay, so yes, I've heard all those theories. These were something that we explored as well when we did some of our round table discussions just about cat relations in the show. Rum Tum Tugger, yes. Like we had a little playtime on stage where he would just like at me or, just do certain things. And our story was that, we both felt like we were stars and we both went to be performers, not dating. We did not take into that line. In our production, we definitely kept it as Grizabella most likely had a relationship with McCavity.
Okay.
Physical, relationship. But with Rum Tum Tugger, they were like buddies. They were like, we're going to be stars together. We're going to be friends together. And then Grizabella just became very self-absorbed. And so where Rum Tum Tugger still had that lighthearted energy, he would go be a star, but he'd come back and be with the tribe. And so they received him more in his stardom and in his, egotistical ways. But in him and Grizabella, he thought that they were really good friends. Like we're in this together. And she just thought that she was above the program. So that's kind of a relationship dynamic that he and I played when we were in the production together. It would always be just side eyes and bad energy from him whenever we would cross paths on stage. We did not fully play around with the idea of me having a child in the tribe. Mm-hmm. It was a hint. It was hinted at. Oh, maybe Victoria, the white cat, is actually her child, or we didn't fully explore that. But I do think for me, what I fully explored and what I fully fed into in the production is how the young cats really received me, mm-hmm. And for me, in the moment of where I was in my life personally, I truly do believe that children bring about a new innocence into the world. And so knowing that I was nurturing and growing a new baby in my stomach, it made me receive the kittens on the stage in such a nurturing way. And I love that that's how our production did it too. Like every time Victoria, the white cat, would see me, she would embrace me or just long to touch me. And then the fact that Jemima is the one who sings the verse with me in the last memory, mm-hmm. another kitten who really doesn't get a lot of playtime on stage, but I think it's such a sweet moment that that's the kitten they choose to sing with Grizabella. It just highlights the innocence of youth. And I just think that that's really important.
Yeah. That's the character that a lot of productions have played with as Grisabella's child, mm-hmm. is that Jemima or Syllabub, whatever they call it in the production, because of that, singing that lyric, and because of like being usually one of the first ones to go up at the end before memory, mm-hmm. that would be potentially mm-hmm. a child. I do think the innocence of the kittens is an interesting part too, because there's this like, they don't know. There's also in some situations where they might not actually know who Grizabella is besides the lore of Grizabella. Like what a Demeter and Bombalurina or Janani Dots have like tried to shield from them, but then also have their own curiosity to want to know more of what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of youth and their innocence. And that's the depths of Cats that I think a lot of people don't see, because like you said, if you don't see it multiple times, you're like, what's going on now?
Yeah.
Because it is just a lot of cats swarming the stage sometimes, depending on how you receive it. But yes, that's so important, because I just think that it's a clever way of storytelling to do it that way. And even if you try to explain something to kids only see what they see. And so it showed you right there that the fact that all the young kittens wanted to be around Grizabella, wanted to touch her, wanted to embrace her, there was a light in Grizabella that they were seeing, that sometimes as adults, as teenagers, we become so jaded with the world. We get in our own way of forgiveness. We get in our own way of seeing someone's true colors. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much depth to this story.
And so much depth. I'm like, Grizz, I'm like, is this too deep? Is this too deep? Because I'm like, I like to have fun, but Grizabella is such a deep story. It's not the fun role. It's like, it's the fun role because it's the princess track. You come on stage maybe just 2 or 3 times, but it's deep.
Yeah.
You got to come on stage ready to dive into some deep feelings.
Yeah. What was that? I mean, it's, again, someone who didn't know that much about Cats coming in. What was it like piecing all this together? Like, this isn't like The Sound of Music in Greece, and I'm thinking some of the other ones I've seen recently where it's like, all right, these are the stories are pretty well defined and everyone knows them. Like, this is one where I think a lot of people that are fans know it, but a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, they're cats, and they don't realize the depth of that. So what was your depth of it?
Such a beautiful experience for me. I think being my artistry and my artistic history has always been like a musician first. I consider myself a musician first. Just being from New Orleans, being a jazz singer, a gospel singer, I like to have control over how I tell my story through song. Because I do feel like I tell story through song. And I think beginning my career in theater, I love theater, but I sometimes feel like the story is already told for you. I feel like you got the script, you have the lines, you have the song. It's a system. That's musical theater. It's a beautiful system, but sometimes it doesn't leave much room for interpretation. It doesn't leave much room for you to develop your own story. I think that's why I fell in love with Cats. And I hate that I didn't know much about it before this production, but now I love it. And I would love to do this show over and over and over and over again as Grizabella as many times as I'm allowed once I'm back in my performing era. But I felt like for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in a musical where I could be the musician that I've always been as a young girl. I could take this journey and I could sing this song in such a way that tells a story in my heart without using lines to do that for me, without having a voice that someone else wants me to have as a character and then go into a song. It's my voice. And I feel like that's the beauty of this musical. So I would sit backstage and I would listen. I never zoned out. I would listen to what was going on stage. I needed to stay connected because of how sparingly Grizabella appears. I needed to stay connected with the songs that really tell my story. So like McCavity, I'm not in that song. Love that song. That Demeter, is that Demeter?
Demeter and Bombalurina, yeah.
Love that song. But I had to stay tuned into that song because something about that song also informs Grizabella. She had an experience that Grizabella had, and I don't want her to have the life that Grizabella had. So I need to continue to make appearances so these cats can see me, so that they can do better than me, so that they can be better than me. So just staying in tune really helped me continue to tell the story when I went on stage, so that I didn't feel like I was starting from scratch with every song or with every entrance. I needed to keep the energy going to the end.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. If you get cast again to do this. You know, you said you want to do it over and over and over again. Do you think your performance or your story changes if you're doing it now not pregnant?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
In what
going to be
way?
the fun part. I mean, I don't know. I think it would have to be very cast specific, very like character development specific. I do think now as a mom, just my artistry lens, just my spirit, my soul is just very, very different. Just my level of protection, just about doing what's right in the world and like doing right by people in the world. There's so much about you changes when you become a mom that I always say, you know, I'm heavy in my mama era right now, but the mama artistry singer era that's going to emerge, it's just going to be a completely different story to tell. The song is going to be a different song to sing. I even go back and sing songs now and they don't feel or mean the same because there's another layer that's added onto it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, what would change specifically would be that I'm not pregnant anymore. I am now realizing this new world. So I think that's how I was able to make that reflection. When I was in the moment of Cats being pregnant, I wasn't sure what was going to come out on the other side of being a new mom. So I was holding on to all these memories like, oh, I'm performing still and things like that. Guess what? I haven't been in a musical since I've done that show. I don't know if I put a timeline on when I was supposed to get back into a musical after having a baby, but I haven't done one. And I think that's not something I would have thought about in that moment, being pregnant while doing Grizabella. But now singing Memory will have a completely new meaning for me because what are my memories? What am I holding on to? Do I want to go back there or do I want to move forward? Like, do I want to be ascended into a new world because I don't ever want to be associated with pre-mom Jalise? I don't know. The layers can be thick. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting because there's so much there. And I think it's such a beautiful part of theater in general. And then also of this story is that there's a lot of the lore of Cats I've learned 200 plus episodes in as I've talked to people is less about like direction from a director of like, you all should be here and there. And a lot of like, no, that was my best friend in college, and now they're in a character that's probably not supposed to be my best friend, but we can't not have some type of relationship. Or your experience of like your Grizabella being delivered at a moment in time that's so personal and impacting the way you're thinking about it is how that's how so much of the story gets told in all these different productions, and why I think there's such lore to Cats, because you have the freedom to do that that you don't have in other shows like you mentioned.
It's the freedom. Yeah, it's the freedom. And I think it's a brilliant experience for performers. The hard thing is it's so specific. The casting needs to be so specific. And I think for me, that's why I never even thought I would associate myself with this musical, because I'm little, I'm petite, I'm a vocalist, but I'm not a dancer first, not that type of dancer.
Yeah.
I would never be cast as a dancer in Cats, ever. That's just not a show for me. So when you cut that out, then you know that only leaves one role for a person like me. But I definitely feel like it's a role for me, and it can continue to be a role for me. I mean, as a vocalist, as a singer, our voices just develop with time, and it just gets better and better and better, to be honest. But you know, sometimes being petite, I got to be realistic. I've worked behind the table being petite and young looking. I do have a very young face, even though I am on the older, not old, but you know, I'm not young either. But it's hard. You start typing yourself out of shows because that's just the reality of theater. You type yourself out of shows before you even give yourself the benefit of the doubt that you can do it.
Yeah. It's kind of almost funny too with Cats, because Cats is always, I'll never forget this, but I had Will Rowland on the show because at BroadwayCon a couple years ago, one of the, he was on a different podcast, and they asked like, if you could perform in any show throughout your career, what would your answer be? And without pausing, he went Cats. And then he just like went through all the male Cats of like, you start as a kitten, and then you're this, and then you're that, and then you end up as Gus. And I think that Cats like has that ability to be able to like start as the Jemima or Bob, and then you get to do Bombalurina or Demeter, and then you get to do Joey Loram and Jenny Any Dots. And,
Yep.
like you have the ability to have it. And then you end up as Grizabella. And there's not a lot of shows that are like that. There are some. And I think that's really fun. But I've also, the last episode I recorded, it was with Aaron Jenkins on the international tour in 2019 movie. He started talking even about how like, he's like, oh, now I'm getting asked for auditions for this character versus that character. And it's like, oh, am I in that part of my career now? You know, like when do you have that? Which is always really a funny kind of conversation of like, oh no, I was like, when are you going to be Gus? Like when are you going to end up being the Gus?
Oh, I know.
But that's a problem when you're at the Gus part of your career. You're now there.
Which is not a bad place to be either.
No, not a bad place. But
that's the thing about cats.
Yeah.
Like you said, that arc of all those different cats that you can be, they're all great roles to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's what's fun. And then, you even mentioned that it's such a dance heavy show, but there are tracks that are for, I've learned in the industry, strong movers instead of dancers. And so you have the ability to kind of be almost at any point in your career, the ability to do cats.
Yeah. Depending on who's on the creative team.
Fair.
Because it's
totally
at the end of the day, it's up to their vision. And
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because York is a dancer lady, and those cats were dancing. They were dancing.
Yeah.
I was in awe. I'm not going to lie, watching it. There was a moment where I appear at the Jellicle Ball at the very top. We kind of used like the original set. I appear at the top and peek down. And I mean, that was probably my favorite time of the night because she gave me like a little move to do to pretend that I was like back doing it again, like just reliving my moment when I was in the tribe. And I was like, oh, I'm a dancer. I'm doing what they're doing. But it was one of my favorite moments every night in the production, just being on stage, watching those cats dance their butts off. Yeah.
It's an athletic feat. That's what I remember. The first time I saw it, I said, these are athletes. Like this is an incredible skill that most of the public does not have.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some rapid fire to get to our final question, which I feel like I might have to argue with you on. If you could go on one night for any cat, which character would you want to play?
Ooh, I'm going one night for any cat.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can sing it, dance it, male, female. Just if you could go on and have some fun, who would you want to be?
I like the Demeter character.
Demeter.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are your favorite and least favorite cats from a personality standpoint? So like, who would you want to hang out with and who would bug you?
Okay, I would want to hang out with Rum Tum Tugger, super fun, and maybe Old Deuteronomy because he's wise. And then I like the twins.
Yeah. Tantamount,
if I'm having like a little party night, I would want to hang out with them.
Okay. What about Bugsy? Who would get on your nerves?
Jenny Any Dots. I wouldn't really want to hang out with Jenny Any Dots, I don't think.
Okay. The tap dancing, cockroach teaching cat. Okay.
Yeah, because on stage she was so mean to Grizabella.
That's true. That's the mother. Okay, we'll get into the Jellicle choice here in a minute.
Okay.
Last two. Favorite song?
Favorite song is Memory.
Memory.
Hands down. Whether I'm singing it or not. Nah, because I'm singing it.
Yeah. And then who do you think would be the best mother in the, which cat would be the best mother? Best
mother. Maybe Bombi Lorena.
Yeah. I think she's the cool aunt. I have Joey Loram, but I think Bombi Lorena was one of my choices.
Yeah, I think so. She knows a little bit of both worlds. So she'll be a cool mom, but she's nurturing too.
Yeah.
And the way she looks out for Demeter, but also protects the kid. And she will be a good mom.
Okay.
Fun. Okay. Yeah.
Now, this is the $1 million question. I've argued that I don't think Grizabella is the right Jellicle choice. So I want to know, for you, who's your Jellicle choice and why?
Well, we're going to get to arguing because I really do think that Grizabella needed to be the one to ascend. And if I guess I was thinking it through, I would say maybe like Gus or Old Deuteronomy. But I feel like Grizabella lived her purpose. Like she had such an arc, even though it was at a young age or everything kind of happened so fast for her. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes the beauty or the unpredicted beauty of life is the fact that we've done enough, even at a time when people don't think that we have and that we should continue. But I don't think that was her purpose.
Yeah, I do like that the done enough, even though everyone else doesn't agree. I think where I still right now struggle is, and your story amplifies this even more, is that family welcomes you back. You've been longing for that moment.
Yeah.
And you get it. And then it's like, all right, cool. We're going to now sacrifice you, versus the spend a year with the family, have that. And I think about you, like with being pregnant, it's like in that moment where it's like, you're about to have you finally have your family welcome back. You're about to have this like life-changing moment. And it's like, no, we're going to send you off. And I think so much of the argument depends on what you think the heaviside layer is, because I don't disagree with the redemption story. I think she needs that more than anybody else in the tribe. Yeah. But I think what she needs most is one more year with a loving family. Mm-hmm. And so send Gus or Old Deuteronomy or somebody else this year, and she can go next year.
But I think sometimes when it's so weird. You can't lose your legacy sometimes, because what happens if Gus or Old Deuteronomy leaves and there's no one fully prepared yet to take on the legacy, to lead the tribe?
That should be Monk's trap. That's the whole point of his.
I know, but
he's ready. I actually still would send Gus. Okay. Because I think Gus has told his story. He's enjoying it. Like, he's living life still.
But we all have those people that you're like, dang, they're here another year. They're still kicking it. They're still kicking it. I think that's the Gus of the story. It's like,
but that's why I send him. It's fine. It's time. It's time. Grizabella, you go next year. You take 1 year with your family, have your kitten, have some birthday parties, like really enjoy that, like that year of time that you get welcomed back. Yeah. And then you can go right after. Yeah. And I absolutely see it that way too. I think before, say if I was doing this show and I was not pregnant, I would be like, yep, I agree. She needs to be back. I just think that in that moment, one, being in the show and having to accept that was the journey so that I can portray the story properly. Totally. And then beyond that, looking back, like now that I am a mom, I'm just like, I think once you become a mom, like you step outside of yourself, you no longer care to have everyone's approval. You just start to get a little bit more free with like your love. You get more free with like, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I just care that my soul, it feels good. I wake up happy every day. I think for me, that's how I feel about Grizabella. It's like, she feels good. She's like, you know what? They accepted me. I feel good. My job here is done. What's next? Like, I don't even want to go back and be here for a year. What's next? They've accepted me. I'm moving on. I just want to feel good about every choice that I've made in the past. No regrets, move forward. And now I just have to shed something new versus spending a year. Well, how was it back there? Well, how you feel now? Like, I don't know. I just think of all the questions that they may ask her for a year of living. Is like, does she really want to answer all those questions, or does she just want to move on and move on at peace, knowing that like, all right, they love me. Now they're going to embrace what's coming back. Because I do believe the heaviside layer is like her shedding a layer. And I just feel like it was making space I believe that my baby was going to be reborn. So I'm shedding a layer so that my baby can be amongst this tribe. So if I had to leave and make sure that this tribe loves my baby, here we are. And so I think that's one of the biggest differences in your argument versus the lot of the rest. Is that I really struggle with if Syllabub or Jemima is already your child. Yeah, and you know, it could be that too. And it could be that I felt like, I'm an artist here, so I could flip this so many different ways. Yeah. It could be that, I felt there, because there was, as the show went on, the reason why I connected so much to Jemima / Syllabub is that moment was really special for me. Storytelling through song is special for me. It could be a moment where that is my daughter, and then I'm having another baby. And I know that this baby is going to be safe because I've connected with her. The love is there. I can leave. The two of them are in good hands. It could be, it could be spun in so many different ways. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's the beauty of art. That's my goal, is to try to spin it in a different way here for somebody to take some creative liberty with it and go a different direction. But I've never argued against the redemption arc of Grizabella. I firmly believe that that's such an important part of the show and the message. Yeah. My argument is with her going to the heaviside layer right away. I know. You're like, nope, she needs to stick around. Give her some time. And so Gus is your choice. Gus is my choice, or the choice that originally started this joke was I saw Leona Lewis, who's in the X Factor, they make boy bands. So I wanted Tugger and Mistopheles to go together as a boy band. But that was mostly with we're picking a winner off of, like, that's not a story of a redemption. That's everybody's song is a package that they put up before they sing their song, and then America votes at the end, or Britain votes at the end. And then they make a boy band because that's how One Direction and Fifth Harmony and all those other X Factor soloists became bands. So that was my original thought.
So do you think, though, these cats want to be chosen?
I think the more I've, if you would ask me this in 2019 when I started the show, I would have been like, yeah, it's just a pop, it's American Idol on drugs, or it's X Factor on drugs. Now that I'm thinking and like truly analyzing it from the perspective and hearing so many different versions, I don't think every person is singing for their worthiness. I think some are truly trying to say, this is why I should go. I think that's like Jenny Anydots is that way. I think Gus is that way. Like, look at me, look at why you should pick me. I think there's like Tugger just is kind of disrupting the show. Michael, Jerry, and Rumpel Teaser are not singing for their opportunity to go. They are just causing chaos.
Yes.
So I think there's somewhere it's like they're just in the show to add a little bit to learning more about the tribe, the story, and the cats. And there are a couple that are like, this song is their opportunity to say, this is why I need to be picked.
Yeah.
Because there is a world that I've asked a lot of old Deuteronomies, which is, if you're all knowing, Grizabella's coming back, but what if Grizabella doesn't come back? And some old Deuteronomies say that they actually don't think they knew Grizabella was coming back in the beginning of the show, or the beginning of that night. And to me, then they had to have been thinking about who they were picking if this person, this character doesn't come back and kind of disrupt. And that it's really usually that moment of little memory where they're like, yes, I see now that Grizabella needs to go. Like, that's the moment they feel it. But what happens if they don't come back? Do you send Gus? Do you send somebody else?
Yeah, and then I do think that's where I do think Gus probably would have been the other choice had Grizabella not made her appearance back into the tribe. It's my assumption based off of just the songs and the storytelling. Yeah.
There's one thing I'm convinced on is that the original creative team never thought about this. And they had their story, they wrote it, and it was the 80s, and so there's probably some other
they're probably
things
looking at us like, they're getting deep now.
I don't think that layer and that level of depth went into a lot of this stuff. But I think that's also the beauty of what they created is that it could, and they created a world where it could. And there are a few other things in the Hollywood and other stuff where I feel like that's the case. And there's a lot of stuff where it's like, no, there's no level of interpretation. That's exactly what you saw. And I like it. I like that this conversation can happen.
Me too. And I think that's what makes this show so special. I think that's what makes this show special for artists that get to experience it. Because even though I'm experiencing it from the lens of a singer, and yes, I have to stay within some of the notes on the page and things like that, but I don't have lines dictating. And I think for the dancers, yes, they have numbers that they have to be very specific about. But then I know how much fun those dancers had on stage, being able to like roll around and like make certain moves and do certain things with their body, just the freedom that you have. Freedom was such a good word that you use. This show is literally about freedom.
Yeah. Well, this has been so fun. I know I'm not going to change your mind, so we'll mark your vote as Grizabella. How can people stay in touch with you on social media or just anything else when you get back into the theater world? How do people know?
I am on social media on all platforms, I guess. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Jalise, Jalise, _ Jalise, Jalise. That's it. That's me.
We'll link them all.
Yeah. So that is where you can find me. Like I said, I'm very much so in my mom era, but also in my artistry era, but more in like the mentor side. So I do a lot of appearances talking to high school theater kids, and I do a lot of private coachings, coaching kids for theater or pageants or confidence. So that's kind of the era that I'm in, but I still pop up and sing every now and again, and I will be getting back into theater sometime soon. But yeah, find me, follow me there.
Amazing.
Watch my journey.
Everything. Yeah. And if you know someone who is wants a speaker or something too, reach out. You can come come to the school and or to college or wherever and share your experience, which has been so fun to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on, and thanks
Thank
everyone
you
else
for having me.
Yeah. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.